Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Cool, cool, cool. Hey, Pete,
Hi there. Hi.
how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good.
Fantastic. Good stuff. This is the early class. This is all the people that are arriving on time. On time is early these days with these calls. Fantastic. Good stuff.
Integrity.
Good stuff. Just while everyone's signing in. I mean, we're all here to learn about sales, right? And this is a networking opportunity for you guys as much as it is for me. So while we're waiting, if there's anyone, if you want to just introduce yourself to the group and say this is who you are and what you're wanting to get from understanding a sales process. So Pete, seeing as you're top right on my screen, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, my name is Pete Higgins. I'm based in Edinburgh in Scotland. I'm working with several companies, helping them scale up their businesses. One of them being an e-commerce company that grew out of lockdown and providing vegetable delivery from the door, straight from the farm to the customer's door. Cheaper, fresher, more environmentally friendly product. And he's managed to build the business up just over the last 2 years, and I'm helping him scale that business with proper systems and processes in place for doing that on it. So yeah, that's what I'm here.
Fantastic. And guys, anyone, if you want to drop your LinkedIn connection, like LinkedIn profile link or like that to anyone else, feel free, guys, to network with each other. This is all about sales, so feel free to take advantage. Anyone else? Helen, I won't ask you because I know you've just had some dental work done. So
thank you. I'm not too bad actually. If the anesthetic wears off, I might be, but no, my name's Helen Potter, and I run a training business called Eureka Europe, which I founded a few years ago together with a couple of partners, and we teach people how to innovate.
Fantastic, great stuff. Brilliant, short one-liner, succinct. And if anyone wants to learn how to innovate, you should definitely chat to Helen. Anyone else want to introduce themselves just while we're waiting for the last few people to arrive? Don't all rush at once. No pressure.
Go on then. Yeah, so I'm Fred Copestake. I'm a sales trader as well, mate. But you knew that. And you know we like to go around looking what each other are doing because we're always looking at opportunities to collaborate. So yeah, that's kind of the objective on that. You didn't know that though.
Fantastic. Well, great. Welcome. And I said, feel free to network and collaborate. I feel like there's enough business for all of us. So
there is, and there's some stuff that you're doing similar to me, which I wanted to perhaps chat about. So no pressure now.
Yeah, fantastic. All good. Carol, I see you come off mute. Do you want to introduce yourself? Or not?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
I'm sorry, what was your question? I had to step away. I'm not at my desk.
All right, all good. I was just saying if there's anyone else wants to introduce themselves and just say who you are and what it is that you're looking to get from this sales call.
My name's Carol Schultz. I'm founder and CEO of Vertical Elevation, Talent Equity and Leadership Advisory. I do consulting and coaching. I have many years of experience, 30, unlike most people in the business. And I'm not sure what I want to get out of this. I have 30 years of sales experience. So I don't know, something about your message sparked enough interest to have me listen in.
It's funny how that happens, right? I have this theory that like in any target market, there's like 17% of people who will just buy from you or just feel a resonance with you regardless of what you say. And then there's like 17% of them that will just never buy from you no matter what you say. And all the technical stuff and all the strategy stuff is about the people in the middle. Like everything you read in the marketing textbooks and everything you read about sales is all about the stuff in the middle. So hopefully I'm able to share with you a little bit of my experience of the stuff in the middle. So just a little bit of my background, 20 years of doing digital marketing stuff, started businesses, crashed businesses, and And I think I'm really passionate about technology's ability to be able to connect people. I think there's like, in the human growth trajectory, we're always looking for where are we now? Where do we want to be? And we're trying to get to where we want to be faster. And people are able to help us get to where we want to go faster. To me, that's what the whole expert economy is about: coaching, marketing, whatever the case might be. It's about helping people get to where they want to go faster. And to me, the whole sales and marketing system, when it works, is about connecting people that want to go somewhere with people that can help them get there. That's when it works. So that's kind of the frame that I'm looking at this from. So I'm kind of a reluctant salesperson. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I'm not a sales expert. I'm not that guy. This has just been my experience of how I've kind of muddled my way through this, and hopefully sharing my journey with this. Maybe it'll help you a little bit. I'll also show you where sales fits into kind of the process of building an expert business, and specifically the way I do it kind of fits into a model that I've worked out for myself, and I'm starting to share with people and starting to get some very interesting results. One of the interesting things I'm seeing is that as much as I'm passionate about this, I'm not a particularly good salesperson. I'm also not particularly good at doing webinars and things like that. I just like it. And when we start to put these tools in the hands of people that are really good at this stuff, we're starting to see some really interesting things. And like I said, my vision is about helping more people get to where they're going faster. And if I can, in some small way, help that happen more often, that makes me happy. And I think that's a pretty good model for kind of a positive economy. Like, let's all do good and make money. So if that's your jam, let's go on a journey with the rough guide to how to run a sales or strategy call. So the first thing I want to talk about is just kind of Rosie, are you still there? Well, I'm getting a reverb. There we go. I think that's Rosie. Good stuff. So there's a couple. I'm going to flip to the end here and just kind of give you the frame. I'm going to go right to the end and say, where does a strategy call or sales call fit into your model, into the process? So these are the kind of things you want to have in place in order to get a sales call. So what we're not talking about is a discovery or networking call, right? A slightly different thing. Those people like Fred and I will probably have a call like that at some point where it'll be like, hey, what are you doing? What am I doing? Let's see if there's a way that we can collaborate. That's a networking call. A sales call is kind of the next step after that, where it's like, okay, the assumption is we're going to figure out how we're going to work together. Make sense? It's like, what exactly is that going to look like? And, ideally at the end of that, you're going to ask people for some money. And they're going to be like, hell yeah, this sounds like a great deal. Take my money. This is where we want to get to. So this is kind of the outcome. Now, we're assuming that you've got some infrastructure in place that is delivering you the ability to get sales calls. And I can talk to you a bit about the end, how to put this infrastructure in place if you don't already have it, so that you have people that are interested in coming to talk to you about, hey, I'm over here. This is where I want to be. I think maybe you can help me get you can help me get there. The other assumption I'm going to make in terms of this frame is that you're selling something that's not obvious, right? Okay, if you're selling like, a coffee pot or something like that, you don't need to understand the anatomy of a sales process, right? Okay, website will do that. This will do. I'm talking specifically from the frame of you're selling something kind of intangible. For example, Helen is selling innovation. Okay, I'm selling, not sure what exactly yet, but maybe you'll find out, given that this is a sales call. But coaching is a great example of that, and it's an area in expert businesses. That whole realm is something I'm very fascinated with, because essentially what you're just selling is information. And some of the processes I've learned through here came from my background in selling technology, and working in technology systems and building marketing systems for people that had built something that had never existed before. So that's the frame that I'm kind of looking at this in and saying we're selling something that's possibly a little bit non-obvious and probably high value, because again, you don't need this kind of stuff if you're going to be selling something that costs like a couple of bucks. Okay, so we're all in the right place. You're all selling something that costs more than a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds. Maybe, no. All right, just checking. All right, so if that's the case, let's look at the structure of this. So this is the basic structure. First step, and this is kind of step 0, is prepare before we even get to before the process even starts. Then there's the opening of the call, what I call chit chat, rapport building, setting the frame, finding the gap, empathizing and reflecting, then prescribing, then making the decision, then cash. And then after the call, make sure you actually follow up and do the things you were going to do. Simple, yeah? Okay, I want to thank you for your time today and have a great rest of your afternoon. But wait, there's more. Of course, there's more. Okay, fantastic. All right, so let's talk about prepare. And this is if you had to look at like the client engagement, the energy level, if you were to see them from the side, hopefully what's going to happen is they're going to be leaning forward like this more and more as the call goes in, and then kind of decompressing towards the end of it. All right, the level of excitement and engagement should build throughout the call. So this is, we'll talk through this. So prepare, open, chat, frame, gap, reflect, prescribe should be at the kind of peak of engagement where the vulnerability and engagement has opened up to the point where they will let you inside their world and be able to say, based on where you want to go, here are the next steps. Okay. And this word prescribe is quite important because if you are, my whole frame and model for this stuff is that sales is not about trying to get anybody to do anything. Right? So I really like the coaching frame for this is that it's not about forcing people to do anything, but inviting them to take the next step on the journey that they're already on, right? And helping them get clear about what it is that they actually want, where it is that they want to go. Because just show of hands here, how many guys spend, a reasonable amount of time, like at least 15 minutes a day, thinking deeply about your goals? Okay. Excellent. All right, you've got them written down. Fantastic. Right. Kudos. Guess what? You guys are pretty unusual, right? Because a lot of people out there are not spending that time. We've got so many distractions, so many things going on, and not 100% clear. And part of the function, I believe, of your service that you're providing as a salesperson or in the sales role is helping them get to that clarity. Okay. So that's sort of the frame that we're working here. So step 1 is prepare. Now there's 2 levels to this. There's the factual level where you're going to prepare and you're going to make sure that you've figured out, you've done whatever homework you can. Find out a little bit about who they are, what the company is, at least read the LinkedIn profile, make sure you've read through any supporting information, familiarize yourself so you don't have to go and use that time to cover ground that could have been covered ahead of time. Okay. The second thing, if you're into a bit of mindfulness practice, is to center your energy, right? And to check in with yourself, what space you're coming from even before the call is answered, even before the call is started. So you're almost visualizing the end of the call and what is the feeling that we want to get to, right? Is the feeling, I need to close this deal. All right, otherwise I can't pay rent. And I need to close this deal, otherwise this. This is a very scratchy, unappealing place to come from. Okay. If we're thinking about and we're visualizing and holding a space of we're going to connect and we're going to find out what the best way is for us both to get what we want. And we're going to come to a solution where it's greater than either of us could have come together. This is a much more appealing space and much more fun space, I think, to come from in a sales call. So you can pick your energetic space to come from, but I invite you to consider maybe spend a couple of minutes and just check in with your space, check in with your energy and see where it is that you're coming from into the call. Okay. Is that okay with you guys? Can I be a little bit woo-woo? Excellent. All right.
So, John, I was just about to type a question. What if, we have great days, we have bad days. If you have this call scheduled and, energetically, you are not in the right place. I don't know, your computer keeps shutting off. You accidentally stepped on your cat's poop or something, I don't know, like this is real life, right? Like this
Yeah,
stuff
100%.
So I would just like to hear maybe from you or everybody else. Like I completely agree. And I know what you mean when you are firing in the right sort of mindset. It's great. And yes, we do control our mind and we control how we react to these things outside of it. But there are times like that literally you're sort of asked to help. Like I'll give you an example. I was asked to help with something yesterday. It was 20 minutes notice. And that's not what I had planned for my day. And it was fine and I did it and it was great, but it was not sort of the mindset that I was preparing to do for that day,
Yeah. I mean, the place I would come from is always do your best, right? With respect and reverence that your best is not going to be the same, like, I mean, a couple of minutes before this call, I've been on back-to-back calls since about 10:30 this morning. Right, been through some pretty intense meetings, like amazing stuff is happening, but it's been a hell of a day. Like I'm frazzled. And like 15 minutes before this call, I was like, God damn it, fucking webinar, I don't want to do this. That was the space I was in. And I was like, okay, like check yourself, John. Like if you're going to be of service, you need to recalibrate. So I was like, okay, deep breath, feel the space, get centered in time and space. I'm into the Wim Hof breathing at the moment. And I was like, did some Wim Hof breathing, and I was like, okay, I think I got this. And I remember like, hey, you actually, this is not something you have to do. It's something you get to do. And I had a bit of a conversation with myself. Would I have been better if I'd had a nap this afternoon and meditated and, like I have an afternoon nap with my cat sometimes, then I'm in the zone.
Yep.
Would have been better. But the 5 minutes I spent getting into the zone for this call meant I was better in a better place than I would have been if I didn't. So I think it's kind of like progress, not perfection. Spending a little bit of time.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Or make a point, John? Thanks. We all have circumstances in our lives, and you can either let your circumstances manage you, or you can manage your circumstances. It's kind of another way of what you just said, John. And I think we as human beings primarily let our circumstances manage us, which is not really an effective way to run our lives. So, I mean, the reality is you can, as you said, take a deep breath, use your business as the distraction from the other shit that's getting in your way. Right. And I don't know if that helps. I can't remember who asked the question. I think it was Lena, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think that's just something that's really effective. I mean, there's more to it, and I'm not going to take up your time, but that would be my comment about circumstances. And just, sometimes you're not, 100% on your game, but you just do the best you can. And more importantly, whoever you're talking to, be authentic about that. If you're not, be straight with them. They will appreciate that. Yeah,
100%. I think this is a human game. And ultimately we're all humans. And I think, part of this, way I like to see it is you're really speaking about other humans and connecting with other humans about their stuff. This is not a tactic, or I think, a lot of the tactics and things are kind of like we create the space between us where I think you should always have a positive outcome at the end of a sales call, regardless of whether or not you close the deal. Right? Come from a space of being of service. One of the people I was on a call earlier with sees sales as a spiritual practice because, the act of doing this stuff is going to push all your buttons, right? You're going to see all your insecurities, all your stuff is going to be made visible in the process of asking people for money for stuff and coming into this space. It is a very beautiful space, but I think it gives us so much opportunity to grow. Okay, so that's prepare. Second, open. Obviously, be on time. A little bit of introductions. This is me. This is what we're here for. Make sure that obviously your microphone works and you've got water and all that sort of stuff. This is me. This is the purpose of the call. And this introductions and chit chat kind of go reasonably hand in hand. Now, the chit chat, 2 to 3 minutes, very quick. But this is where we're breaking the ice. And the purpose of this is start to build a rapport. Now, rapport is going to be really important to us as we get into the next thing, the next steps. So here, again, surface level, it's just, hey, how's the weather, that kind of thing. If you want to take it a bit deeper, you can start look for environmental cues. You can look at, been studying some NLP lately, you can look at, is this a visual or an auditory or kinesthetic person? What's going on in the background? Can we start to pick up some information about what else is going on in this person's world? All right? Start to get a little bit of trust and notice what's going on. All right? And, you know, be a little bit vulnerable, be a little bit authentic. You know, like at some point, probably in this call, my cat will wander in here. It's just one of the things that's going to happen. Every time we do a webinar, cat comes in. Those kind of things, if there's another person that has a cat, it's like, boom, like it's as good as done. Because it's like cat people, you know, we have a whole bunch of stuff to connect about. But that middle bit, the initial opening starts to build the rapport. You know, we're starting to build some trust, which leads into the next step, which is setting the frame. So the frame is where you start to command the space, and you start to own the shape of this interaction, right? So there's a very specific narrative arc that you've seen. We want to put this in place. Appreciate the time, check the end time, and then we're going to establish the goal and the agenda, right? So are you guys good to go to the top of the hour, another 35 minutes? Okay. All right. So during that time, I'm going to share with you guys a framework for sales, and I'm going to offer you the opportunity to work with me. And at the end of that time, you're going to decide to work with me. Is that okay? You see what I did there? Okay. All right. So there's a couple of ways you can play with it. You know, you can say at the end of this time, especially in a sales call, you can say, depending on how you feel into this, you know, if you want to take quite a masculine approach to this, you can say, at the end of this time, I'm going to make a decision about whether or not it's going to be appropriate for us to work together. See what I did there? I've taken control of who's going to make the decision. All right. Or you can be at the end of this time, you know, we will get a feeling about whether or not it's right to proceed. But in either case, the opportunity is there for you to decide what kind of container we're going to be in, right? And you start to then embody the position of authority, right? There's kind of peaks when we get to the prescribe section, because you're not trying to sell a product, you are prescribing a solution, right? So if you go to a surgeon or to a GP and you say, what's wrong with me? And then he tells you, okay, do you argue with the prescription? Not so much. Do you argue with the bill? Not so much. So this is the position we want to embody, is that of a specialist, right? Where it's not like I'm trying to sell you anything. I'm going to prescribe you a procedure, a method to get what you want. Sound good? Excellent. You guys getting this? Fantastic. Right. So you can start to play with the frame a little bit. You're setting the frame and owning that frame. And by owning the frame, you're starting to create that space of authority. Okay. Whereas I am the expert, where if you go, you're asking for things, begging for things, you start to lose stature, start to disrupt the power balance. Now we start to get, so all of these things, we've built some rapport, we've set the gap, and now what we want to do, before you prescribe, we need to diagnose. Okay. And this is where we're getting to the diagnosis part. Now, notice I haven't said anything about, there's nothing to be said about a product or service or solution, none of that stuff yet, because we diagnose before we prescribe. Okay. Because, you know, like the stuff that I do lots of things. Most people give zero shits about what I do, right? Most people, I think, would love to live a long, happy life and never have to do digital marketing, right? What they want is the stuff that's on the other side of that. Okay, they want to have a business that generates money regardless of whether or not they're there. They want a constant stream of leads so that they don't have to feel the pressure of having to feed the beast every month, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we want to get to. So we're finding out the gap. Okay, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's in the way? Okay, so this is where you start to build the rapport, and now this is where this starts to pay benefits. Okay, where are you now? So where are you now? Very easy to start to talk about where are you now? What's going on in your current reality? What are the current facts about what's going on? So that stage in the conversation, there's lots of language you can use here, but here's some examples of what this could sound like. You know, when it comes to getting a constant stream of strategy calls or appointments, where are you now at the moment? What's going on for you at the moment? In terms of business, where are you now? In terms of your innovation process, where are you now? What's going on in terms of innovation in your organization at present? Okay. Do you have any goals around these, around innovation? Where are you trying to get to? What have you tried before that didn't work? And when it comes to working with these things, you're starting to extract some detail around the subject at hand. So Helen, I'm using your business just because I know a little bit about it. But you would shape these questions based on obviously what it is that you're trying to sell. I mean, if you're selling something in the health and fitness space, you would say, well, what's going on with your health, with your health at the moment? Like what's working, what's not working, how's that going for you? How long has that been a problem? Why is that a problem? And you're starting to extract, extract the worldview, extract the current reality of where they're at the moment. And again, what this is doing is building rapport. People love to talk about themselves, and you are listening, active listening. Okay, both are this is quite like a high energy practice, but what you're doing is being of service, finding out where they want to be. Remember, we said most people don't really think about their goals, and what you're doing is providing a space and a container for them to be able to unpack these things with you. Okay, where would you like to be? So now we come on where are you now? Where would you like to be? Okay, now I have a belief that the distance between where they are and where they want to be, the distance between that is value, right? So the bigger we can make that gap, the more context, more space we have to position our service in, right? So if we can say, where do you want to be next week in your business? You've got that much space to go in. If you say, where do you want to be in 12 months? We've got a lot more opportunity to play with. We can create a much more compelling vision of the future, and it's almost a much more believable version of the future because we're going beyond the chaos of the current moment, giving them space and opportunity to dream. One of my clients is a phenomenal coach in Silicon Valley, and he has this exercise that I call the French Laundry experience. You guys ever heard of the French Laundry? The restaurants, it's like fancy ass restaurants in Carol's probably heard of it.
Of course I have. In fact, I'll tell you a really funny quick story. We have a bakery probably 10 minutes or 15 minutes from where I live, and it's probably the best bakery in the entire state. And someone said to me, "Oh, you went to Poulette Bakery?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you have any idea who Alan and Carolyn are?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Carolyn was the pastry chef at the French Laundry." I'm like, oh my God, did we hit the jackpot?
Well, there you go. So French Laundry,
extraordinary.
It's a big deal.
Shit that they produce.
Yeah. So French Laundry,
people are coming from all over Denver, the whole metro area. I mean, I live in like I live in an unincorporated part of my county, but in the town of Parker, which is just this, this bedroom community. It's because her parents moved here.
Well,
so they relocated here. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So there you go. So for some, if you're in America, you understand the French Laundry. Maybe in the UK, maybe it's like the Ritz or something like that, right? So let's imagine. So let's imagine it's 12 months from now, right? Let's imagine we're at the French Laundry. Okay, and we're busy celebrating. Now, French Laundry, I mean, bottles of wine are like $3,000 a bottle of wine. You can get $3,000 bottles of wine. So if you're in America or in the States, I mean, if you're in the UK, let's imagine we're in at the Shard in London or something, and it's 12 months from now. Okay, you're in your favorite restaurant. It's 12 months from now. You're looking back, okay, and your schemes have succeeded beyond your wildest dreams. Okay, and we've just ordered fancy ass bottle of wine. It's just arrived. We've poured it out into a couple of glasses. We're busy cheersing and we're celebrating. Okay, we're celebrating like the most unbelievable 12 months. Okay, just think to yourself as you breathe the air, as you smell the smells, what are you celebrating? you start to get this anchor point, right? 12 months in the future, your business has exploded. It's gone absolutely gangbusters. Right? What are you celebrating? Okay. Who's got a picture? Fred, what are we celebrating?
Where's the mute? It's all from you. Doubling income. More accelerated to be sold times 2.
Fantastic. You doubled your income.
Yeah, 10x is a bit silly at the moment.
Doubled your income. Amazing. Great stuff. We're celebrating. What else? What does that mean you can do? Why have you doubled your income? What can you do now that you couldn't do previously?
Have more people on board so I can double.
And you can double and what will that allow you to do?
That's the plan.
What'll that allow you to do?
Well, then it's double after that, and then it's sell.
Okay, and then what'll
5 gone, bye.
Exactly. All right, saleable business. Saleable business. That's it. Okay, so Fred, what we're celebrating is we've 12 months later, we've put down the infrastructure, and you've got a scalable model that you're on track to sell the business in 3 years. Is that something we're celebrating?
Oh, happy days.
Okay, cool. All right, amazing. So now we've got this vision, right? Of like there's an anchor point. Like, cool, Fred, this is what we're doing. Oh yeah. Okay. Now we've got the container. Now we know where we're going. Where you are now, where do you want to be? And it's really useful if you've got this anchor point, right? Because if I had to follow up with Fred after this call and talk about doing business together, I can be like, Fred, how are you doing with how far are we from selling the business? Okay, because that's the other part of the sales process is like the follow-up afterwards. You don't close every deal, but it's the follow-up process afterwards. If you've got that anchor point, it really makes it a lot easier to follow up. You have a reason to follow up, to say, hey, it's been 6 months. How far are we from selling the business? As opposed to going, do you want to buy my widget? Are you ready to buy my widget yet? Okay, it's not about me, it's about you. It's about you. All right, so that's kind of like that point. The point of these questions of where do you want to be is to get to that anchor point. It's not about you, it's about their mission, their vision, their vision of whatever that is for them. It's totally different. Boggles my mind how different people's goals are. And there's also the beautiful process about this. It's not about finding out. It's not about your stuff. It's about their vision. Okay, now we get to interesting. But what's in the way? Why is that not there yet? Why why isn't it done yet? Okay, so Fred, why can't we sell the business?
Sorry, right in. Infrastructure isn't fully in place. That's now. Infrastructure isn't fully in place.
Love it. Okay, great stuff. So infrastructure, so I can dig deeper into that and say, okay, infrastructure is in place. What else?
Which means that I'm doing too much of the stuff, which I like as well, but that's not the point. I have to step out.
Got you. Okay. All right. And you can see we can start to dig into this. How long has this been going on? Like, what is the price that you have to pay in terms of time and energy in order for this to persist? I imagine if I had to mind read into your situation, you are the business. You own a business. You don't have a business at this point. And the transition that you're looking to make is where the weight of the business is not on you, but on the infrastructure. You have a team in place, you have a scalable model, and you have reliable people in place that are doing the things that are necessary in order to get to the business. That transition from being I am a business to I have a business. This is the transition, and that is ultimately building a scalable asset. Building a saleable asset is something that can run without you. Okay. So that's the journey. And what's in the way, we can dig into, okay, how long has this been going on? How many staff do you have? What are the details around that? Again, have I talked about the product yet? Not a sausage. Right. Okay, but if I was selling something to Fred, I know what winning looks like. Okay. Right. So then we're going to the next stage. So once you dug a little bit deeper into that, for a lot of time, people have not spoken about this for the longest time. unless they have a therapist, right? To be like, oh my God, why is this stuff not working? Let it all out, let it all out, let it all out. And often when you get to that point where it's all out, sometimes that's enough. They'll just buy whatever you were selling after that. Because nobody's ever listened. Okay. But the next step is to empathize and reframe. Okay, what I've heard you say is, this is where you are, this is where you want to be, this is what's in the way. Sorry, wrong slide. Empathize and reflect. What I heard you say is, it seems like, what I hear is, and we're going to give this back until you get to that click point, right, where the person says, yes, that's exactly right. Beautiful. Now, I love recording all of my sales call, like all my calls, but sales calls especially, because the detail, speaking of which, I'm not actually recording this one. Oh. So, but for those who didn't attend live, sorry for you, is those things that are what in the way make fabulous marketing content. All right. Okay. For your ideal market. So when you're doing your marketing, your webinars, your all those sort of things, don't talk about the product, talk about the pain and what's in the way, because those are the external indicators that people want to go on the journey that you're going on. All right. So validating and reflecting. So what I'm hearing is, if I understand you correctly, what you really want to do is this, but what you can't do it because of this. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And now we have, if you can reflect that, and there's almost like a click point where it's like the tension drains out and the person goes, yes, you've got me exactly. It's like, the trust is there, and you now know what the journey is that they want to go on. Now you have the ability to prescribe. You've got the space to prescribe into, because you know where they are, you know where they want to be, you know what's in the specific obstacles that they want to go through. Okay. And now you can situate your solution into the gap. You can filter from all the things that you possibly can do, the steps in between, to say, these are the building blocks we want to put in place relative to what they've just shared with you. You don't share the entire inventory of every single solution possible. It's filtered for relevance. This is the specific journey. I see it like a bridge. Here they are, there they want to be, and there's like rocks in the middle, and you're just going to say, here are the specific tool sets, perspectives, processes that allow you to cross the specific obstacles that are on the way in front of you. And this is so interesting to me, because the obstacles and the problems are actually completely relative to the person that's in front of you, right? And how they see the problems, not how you see the problems. And it's it's like the curse of knowledge, that us as specialists, we're so close to the root cause of the problem that we're running around telling our clients, you need to change the fundamental way you do things. And they're not in a space where they can hear it, because what they're looking at is a symptom, whereas you're looking at the root cause. And this is what creates this disconnect. So you kind of keep reverse right back, listen to what they're saying, listen to what, them describing the problems from their perspective, and then from there, offering them the logical next steps in order to get there. Make sense? Happy days. Okay. So if they seem qualified, and again, maybe the logical next steps are not to do business with you. So that is a completely possible outcome, that you might find that they're actually not, they're not the right people. You can still be of service and say, you know what, the logical next step for you, based on what you've shared with me, is I need to introduce you to Helen, or to Fred, or to Pete. Okay. You're still able to be of service, and you know what, that person will still remember you. Okay. However, if the logical next step is that you really have something that can help them, and I think you wouldn't be on this call unless you did, it's about then laying it out to say, how do I synthesize the tool set at my disposal to be able to build a bridge? Okay. So, what you've told me tells me what I put together is on the right track. Is it still okay to share? Now you see, you're giving permission to say what you told me. I think we can work together. And now we say, based on what you've said, these are the problems that you shared with me. This is how we solve each one of them. Right? These are the perspectives, the tools, and potentially, this bit, at this point, you're probably like 40 minutes into a call. I'm at 42 minutes, so we're pretty much on track. You got about 10 to 15 minutes to map out the next steps. Okay, so the next steps are not necessarily going to be, like you're not going to solve the entire problem in 15 minutes. But what you can say is, here are the frameworks, here are the processes. You have a problem that says, I don't have infrastructure. We have the magic infrastructure tool. And we will implement this tool to fix the infrastructure. And then what we will do is, you shared with me, you have this you want it to be a scalable business. Here I have a scalable model business development process, which is step 2, and then step 3. Given time, I might show you guys a bit about developing your framework. So that's part of the process. Part of my process is helping you develop that framework and starting to collect those pieces together so that you can have a framework that you can start to use to help people get to where they want to go. Right. But today is based on you guys. So it's about filling the gap, about building that bridge, about from where you are to where you are to where they want to be. And you're positioning your solution or your product into that gap. And I like a 12-month horizon, because you can paint a decent picture in terms of how that's going to get there. It also, from a consulting expert business point of view, it positions you for 12 months worth of work, right? Or at least 6 months worth of work, rather than trying to sell one specific thing. And you start to develop programs of work and long-term client relationships, rather than short-term kind of product drops. And I'm assuming that you guys are selling something that is based on my targeting and the people that we invite to these. Generally, it's expert businesses. So once you've shared all of that, they might ask for some clarification. And here's a wonderful sentence. It says, based on what you've shared with me, I think you and I would be a perfect fit. Do you agree? And then you keep quiet. All right, because remember, we opened the frame to say at the end of the call, I'm going to decide if we're a perfect fit. At the end of the call, close it and say, based on what you've shared with me, I think it would be a perfect fit. Do you agree? And then keep quiet. Difficult to hold the space, but this is the work. Let them process, let them think. It all balances out. If there's any objections, they'll then voice that. Reflect back and deal with any objections. But if you've done all the previous bits right, should be questions about how do we move forward? Yeah. And this is the decision. All right. And the decision really, at this point, I would hope that you have your next steps mapped out. Right. So if they do say, cool, I want to go for it, you've got a link that you can send them to that says, right, let's go. You've got some way of going, if we're going to book a strategy call, the next step is we're going to book a discovery call or a feasibility study or a program of work. Make sure that the next decision, from the decision, we can flow directly into the next steps. Right. If you are offering somebody the ability to buy something, is there an easy way for them to buy it? If you're offering them, if you need them to book a meeting with you, is there an easy way for them to book a meeting with you? If you're invoicing a large company and you need to get on the procurement list or something like that, that's going to be the next step. All right. So make sure that right. These are the next steps, and this is a great time to also negotiate for payment terms. If you are dealing with companies. Because now you hold the frame that goes, right, if you want this thing that you get, this is my process, this is how it works. And if they say, oh, my payment terms are this, then you can negotiating from a space of at least elevated authority. And I find often, even large companies, you can negotiate payment terms as long as you find the right decision maker. one thing I love about complex systems and systems is that if you find the person that made the system, you can manipulate it. Anyway, so the point is to have the ability to just make it easy for people to buy from you. Like, just make it easy. Okay, and then next steps after the call. You've given them the next steps, thank them for their time, invite, you know what the next steps are going to be. You can engineer some kind of fireworks so that once people do take the next steps, there's instant acknowledgement. So if they do book, so one of the things in my system, if you book like a strategy call, it says, hey, thanks for booking the strategy call, and here are the next steps that you want to take. If you buy something, immediately an email goes out that says, hey, amazing, you know that you bought this thing, here's all the access to the things. And I find one of the most complex things, frustrating things in an expert business is the amount of tech that kind of wraps around us that you almost sometimes need to fight through. Like you need a website, and you need an email system, and you need a calendar booking system, and you need a course building system, and you need an SMS system, and all of these different things. So I got super frustrated with all of that and built it for myself. Right. And part of what I want to do is help people like you conquer all of that and get there faster, which is why I do sessions like this, and why, if you want to find out how to work with me, I will happily tell you how to do that. But this is the conclusion of the content part of the call, and I would love to open up to any questions about the content before I go into an offer.
I have one question that I don't think you covered.
Bring it on.
Everybody here probably, at least I know I do, has different levels of sales, like how much it is.
Sure.
I sell's very expensive.
How much? What's the number?
No one's buying from me after one call.
Sure.
Right. So
what's the number? Just so we have a context.
I'd like to see you cover that kind of for everybody, to set, an expectation of how long something might take based on, the price of, one's offer, one's service.
I think it's all relative. I don't think that price is the only variable.
It's not.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, that there's three variables: is where your client is, where they want to be, and what's in the way. This is my cat, by the way. I told you, every time we do a call, he'll show up at some point. I mean, I had a situation today. I had two sales calls today, right? Same product, same price point, 750 pounds a month, right? For the all singing, all dancing, webinar platform. The call I had this morning, super hard. Okay. 15 different questions, a whole technical team, technical audit. They wanted to know every possible different thing. Wanted to talk to references, wanted and also examples of past webinars that I've done. I'm like, okay, sure, you can have that. The second call, 15 minutes in, they said, I get it completely. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Here, take my money. Okay, same price, totally different response, totally different people. So I don't think price is the only variable. I mean, I had a similar thing. Probably the biggest, the biggest single deal I've closed about $22,000. And same thing. I actually got warned going into that conversation that I need to increase my price, because if I don't increase my price,
that's right,
the person in question would not take me seriously.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I've had people say that to me too.
Yeah, it would have introduced friction if I had gone into a lower price point.
Right. Yeah. No, and I'm not suggesting price is the only thing. It's never the only thing. That's just an excuse often. But I think that, my models land and expand. So, you can't get me in for discovery. God, I think on the low end, for under $7,500. Cool. And that could go up to 10 or 12, depending on, the amount of discovery, right? So that's the only reason I mention it.
Yeah. So it's kind of all relative to find out. So sometimes it might be that, where you are, where you want to be, what the next step is. The next step might be a further call. depending on the amount of resistance or the amount of complexity within that. I mean, to try and sell something like a B2B, like a complex, like system integration thing, you're not going to do this in one call, right? You're going to have multiple calls and go through all of this thing with multi-sided people that all have their own different objectives that might or might not align with the company's objective. And you might have to repeat this process 30, 40 times to land like multi-million-pound software integration deal. So this is kind of like the ideal process. I think it contains, my intention with this is to try and be of service, is to show you the key points to hit, like a summary of the sales process, how I've kind of summarized it. So like the guys this morning, I've been through that process with them a number of times, and each time I go through it, I'm encountering more unmet needs, more undisclosed obstacles. But it just means that the next step is some more discovery and some more detail. Sometimes it just takes longer because ultimately you're dealing with humans here, right? And humans come with stuff. But yeah, to me, it's I think the key takeaways from this would be that the value of what you offer is not objective. In terms of like, my coaching package is worth $1,000 an hour or $15,000 an hour. It's completely relative to the person who's paying it. And my perspective on this, I invite you to consider that the greater the transformation you can take a person or company on, the greater the opportunity is for you to position value into that. So that's my perspective. Feel free to reject it. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's been my experience, and then hopefully it is in some way helpful. Cool. Any other questions about the content, about the sales process, about anything that I shared? Fantastic. All right, cool. If you do want to work with me, I want to show you some stuff about how you can do that. If you want to find out more about what that looks like, you're under no obligation to stick around. If you were just here for the content, I have no problem at all if you log off and go have a great day. If you do want to stick around, I'm happy to show you a little bit about what that might look like. Is that okay? Cool. Fantastic. Cool. So essentially, this is but what we're talking about here is this strategy/sales call, right? And when we're talking about building a scalable business, right, building a business, it's essentially about building a bridge for your clients to move from one side to the other side. Your delivery system is how you get them to where they want to be, right? So what we want to do is essentially build a bridge for them to get across from awareness to consideration to decision to delivery. And I'll have you consider that like a working business means you just have a working something on each one of those 4 blocks, right? Some way of turning strangers into like, hey, who's this guy? Some way of allowing them to be able to find out a bit more about you, a little bit more about your process, see if they're a match, some way to make a decision about whether or not to work with you, and then the delivery process, which actually completes the job. And after 20 years of doing digital stuff, my favorite way of doing this is what you're experiencing right now is events, right? Is you invite some people to talk about something that's on their mind, offer them some value, and offer them an opportunity to work with you. The process that we've done, it works really well if you love to talk to humans, you like sharing content, you like talking about your ideas, but you can't be bothered with all the tech and all of the nonsense that goes on behind the scenes, right? You appreciate the value of digital marketing, you appreciate the value of running events, of inviting people, of following up with them, but you can't be bothered to take care of all of the pieces of all of that stuff yourself. So, so this is a system, 2 years ago, I decided, like, during lockdown, I was like, right, I need to get clients in because everyone stopped marketing during lockdown. Surprise, surprise. And I committed to myself that I would do an event every week until I rebuilt the business. And it took 7 repetitions, 7 sharing of value events. And on the 7th one, 5 clients signed up in a week. Crazy. And the weird thing is only 4 of them even had ever even been only one of them had actually ever even been on a webinar. Because this idea of having events, each time you do an event, each time you invite people to it, you post that it's happening and you post that it's happened afterwards, it starts to create this resonance in your marketplace and you start to collect people. Now, once we unleashed that onto the, now 2 years later, we've kind of productized that. And what we're seeing is people that are actually good at selling from a stage are doing way better at this. Lisa Short is one of the, is a functional nutrition specialist. The first webinar she did, she started selling things, right? Because she's just been really good at it and had a really powerful message. So I think this is a really great way, it's certainly my favorite way of building an expert business. And I love it also because you can automate. There's so many bits and pieces that you can automate of this. So, LinkedIn Organic, what you're experiencing is effectively LinkedIn Organic into a webinar masterclass. And I guess what, at the end of this, I'm going to invite you into a strategy call. If you decide that is the logical next step. And so essentially what I'm offering is the ability to take this exact same model that we've got, the entire tech stack, from the website, the emails, the invitation process, how we do LinkedIn processes, the whole thing. And it's essentially the framework that I've used, the framework and the tech stack that I've used to build it. Last year, we did £100,000 in turnover. So it's like, yeah, I'm a six-figure entrepreneur. Still need to pay my tax. But that's for a different webinar. If anyone knows how to teach people like me how to actually not spend all the money they earn, I'd definitely go to a webinar on that. But that's a different problem, right? But anyway, that's the exact system. Literally, you can copy paste the exact same funnels systems that we use, and then you get an onboarding process that you can basically customize it for you. So you'd access literally copy paste the exact business model that I use and the exact same system that we use. What you'll also get is I've created a 13 event cycle of different aspects and how I got there, how I took my business and decided what to speak about. And we can abstract that model and help you decide what are the key things you want to talk about in order to get the people you want to speak to be communicating with you. We'll also add the training libraries for the other pieces that complement this. For example, when you create an event about a certain product, like, hey, how to get more strategy calls, it's not just the people that show up that are potential prospects, it's everybody who RSVPs, right? So there's a way that you can talk to those people in order to do a similar process, connect, rapport, open up the gap, and invite them into a strategy call, right? This also helps if you need to build your LinkedIn network. It helps if you have a big LinkedIn network. If you don't have a big LinkedIn network, built into that is the systems and processes to help you expand your network really quickly without having to, without breaking any of LinkedIn's rules or getting put in LinkedIn jail. So
can I comment on that, John? Because I find it really annoying when I get requests from people that I've never met, and I feel like all they're really trying to do is either sell something to me, which I genuinely, if I've never met you and your first or second message is, come to buy something from me, I find it incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's just it's like pet peeve, very high on the list. And the other thing too is I also find sometimes people want to add you to their network because they feel like you have something to offer them, but they don't necessarily want to offer anything in return, because they sort of see you a more perceived value. And it's also a little bit of catch-22, like, people who think are higher up, better than you, more achieved, accomplished, they don't necessarily want to network, if that makes sense. And now it feels like, LinkedIn has turned into the new Facebook, which I'm happy to play that game too. But I feel like that requires its own conversation. Sorry, just some pet peeves.
That's fine. Yeah, so if you look at all of these strategies, all right, so LinkedIn outreach is what you're talking about, where people are going, hey, I want to connect with you because you're awesome. Now that we connected, okay, buy my stuff. Okay. Like, there's a way of doing that doesn't suck. All right. But it means you actually have to speak to humans. Right. And I definitely don't, you can do that. Included in this process is a course that I bought the licenses to so that you can get access to that for exactly that reason. because most people just do it badly. But to do it properly requires that you actually engage and actually have empathy. But it is quite high energy. So what people do instead is they just spam people, and I don't believe in that at all. Definitely don't do that. The reason I like the event process is that you can connect with people that you're actually interested in, have an actual real conversation with them about something that you're actually interested in. You don't need to sell them anything. Just invite them to an event, and if they show up, then you can have a conversation with them, take them to the next step. So it cuts out all of that intermediate crap. That you can offer people an opportunity to learn something more about what they want to find out about, and it just cuts through all of that nonsense, so that you don't have to be one of those people that's going out there spamming people on LinkedIn. Like, don't do that, please don't. Definitely not. So that's all part of the training materials to put all of that. Part of that will be how to grow your LinkedIn network, how to run your strategy calls, how to make presentations that are fun, and how to get paid to actually build your course or program even before it's finished. And all of that stuff can be accelerated by having events, teaching things, recording it, and offering people an opportunity to get to where they want to be. So the reason I say a 12-month is that if you just do this once, it's probably not going to work. Okay, if you just do an event once and you commit to just doing it once, it's probably not going to work. But if you commit to doing this every 2 weeks for the next 12 months, it'll change your life. Right? Because what happens is you then start to build a community around the people that are on a community around your ideas. You start to build a community around of people that want to go where you've built a road to take them to. And it's essentially, I wanted to make it super easy to say, yeah, cool, this is a vision, 12 months from now, that place I want to go to. I think if I just plug this system into what I'm doing right now, I think I could get there faster. So that's the option. That's what's on offer. Once-off fee, and we set the process up so that you can run this every 2 weeks. Or as often as if you want to do it more often, happy days. If you want to do it less often, that's also great. But I found 2 weeks is like the happy medium, because what most of us want in terms of an expert business is the ability to have a constant stream of people to be able to speak to. And I found that 2 week cadence, get the right amount of people that actually are engaged with you. But what you also get is you're not spending your entire life doing events and speaking. You actually have time to be able to have conversations with people that have RSVP'd and get discovery calls with people leading up to that.